Here's my look at the nominees for Best Documentary Feature Film. Once again, the documentary category this year features some of the least talked about Oscar nominees while providing some of the best films nominated overall. From shocking true stories to extraordinary ordinary people to stunning moments only reality can provide, here are this year's nominees. Acclaimed documentarian and Oscar winner Laura Poitras is back with her new film All the Beauty in the Bloodshed. Focusing on photographer Nan Goldin, the film goes back and forth between two distinct yet thematically linked halves. Nan recounting her life story, one of realizing her artistic ambitions through hardship in the underground scenes in the 1960s to the 1990s, and her direct action campaigns against the Sackler family for their complicity in the opioid crisis. Nan wants to hit the Sacklers and the very artistic and cultural institutions that bear their name, many of which are the very museums where Nan has spotlighted her work and that consider her a major photographic artist, and she won't stop until they cut off all support, including taking down the Sackler name from their institutions. Both these halves concern abusive power dynamics, and the role of art in impacting them. However, the two threads contain a striking difference in form. Whereas Nan's protests are rendered in a typical documentary style, mixing verite footage with interviews, the portions on Nan's life are, for the most part, told entirely through Nan's photos and archival content, supplemented by Nan's own narration, and with very few talking heads. Sometimes Nan's work is played uninterrupted, letting it speak for itself. While I love portraits of underground and rebellious artistic life from this period, it's the present-day portions that give the film a lot of its power. Make no mistake, Nan isn't afraid to make a scene at these institutions, and some of the footage of her protests is stunning. It does raise questions about artistic responsibility, and it's refreshing to see someone like Goldin put her career on the line for the common good. It's a work of staggering power that'll likely both enrage you and inspire you, as it did me. A real-life thriller that serves as a wake-up call from the dangers of authoritarianism, Navalny is that rare breed of documentary that carries an urgent or relevant message, but also has an incredibly compelling narrative and is stranger than fiction. In fact, I'd argue that some material in it would fare worse as fiction than in documentary. It chronicles the poisoning of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, his surprising recovery, and his work to expose his assassination attempt. He enlists the help of the independent journalism collective Bellingcat and, with Russian state-run media denying any poisoning, a grassroots investigation unfolds, with often jaw-dropping results. As a subject, Navalny is incredibly endearing. Funny, snarky, and practically fearless, but fully aware of his situation, he quickly earned my sympathy. Granted, the film does touch upon his history with nationalist rallies, something he is not particularly eager to talk about in the film, but does so regardless. The film's best moments must be seen to be believed, so I'll keep things light, but suffice it to say, there's some material in this that literally made my jaw drop. You can't make films like this up, and the relevance of it makes it even more of a must-see. Fire of Love is a sobering and absolutely spellbinding documentary about Katya and Maurice Kraft, a volcanologist couple who advanced the science of volcano studies, but also died doing the very thing they loved. Told with great narration by Miranda July, the movie almost entirely relies on a vast wealth of archival material, from fuzzy video to shockingly pristine film, with much of it coming from the couple themselves. You'll be endeared by the two of them, but the real star is the volcanoes, to the point where they're actually given cast credits at the start of the film. No cinematic spectacle I've seen in recent memory can compare to some of the footage presented in this film, from beautiful bright magma flows to massive smoke explosions to rivers of acid. It's a beautiful film, but it's also harrowing, and really drives home the overwhelming power of nature. It's a great big screen experience, but still leaves an impact on your TV. This is easily one of the biggest contenders this year. All That Breathes follows two brothers in New Delhi who try to save the city's injured black kites through a makeshift bird hospital. Their efforts are set against a backdrop of ecological decline and rising nationalism and Islamophobia in India. The film is stunningly shot, to the point where I honestly couldn't believe this was a documentary due to the cinematography. I'd say this was one of the weaker films on the list, in my personal opinion, but still a poignant cinematic accomplishment. My film watching habits have gotten to a point where I tend to develop certain intuitions about movies, and last fall I had a hunch that this would beat out a few higher profile competitors to get an Oscar nomination. Turns out I was right. Finally, one of the nominees that surprised me was A Housemate of Splinters. The film follows the residents of an orphanage in eastern Ukraine that aims to create a safe space for children with broken families, particularly those torn apart by war, but not the war you're thinking of. Even with the darkness in these children's lives, the orphanage creates a spot of hope. There are a few kids whose stories are followed in this documentary, but one stood out in particular, Kolya. It's clear that the kids' lives have impacted them heavily, but Kolya is the only child in the film who is almost as troubled as his distressing family life. While he lovingly cares for his younger siblings, he acts out, steals, smokes, and has run away from the home in the past. He was easily the most compelling subject for me, and despite his behavior, he left the biggest emotional impact. The film is alternately heartfelt and heartbreaking, and that's even before addressing the obvious. The film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in early 2022, not long before Russia's war in Ukraine started. In this context, the film feels even more wrenching and urgent. At my screening, a video from the director assured us that the subjects of the film are thankfully fine, but that comfort only goes so far. While it's not my prediction for the Oscar win, I hope the nomination gives it more exposure. My pick for the winner is All the Beauty in the Bloodshed, though I could be wrong. Navalny is also a heavy hitter, and could easily take home the prize, but for the sake of this video, I'm going with Poitras. The good news is that all 5 are currently streaming or are available on demand, and you should absolutely check them out. Stay tuned for more of my coverage of this year's Oscar nominees. Hey everyone, if you liked this video, remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, well, maybe you'll like the next one. I have a lot more planned.